You are standing before the steel doors of the Glynco Training Center. You cross the threshold. The steel doors slam shut behind you with a heavy thud, severing everything that belongs to the outside world. There is no turning back. The air inside is thick. The smell of metal, gun oil, and gunpowder smoke seeps into every breath. Cold fluorescent lights beat down on the long hallway. A voice rings out from the intercom, dry and emotionless. New recruit. Halt. You stand still. From the shadows at the end of the hall, a man emerges. Black coat, posture as straight as steel. His eyes don't just look at you, they evaluate you. He tosses a metal tag toward you. ID 0719. No name, only numbers. He doesn't even bother asking who you are. Because for you to have stepped through those doors, they already know everything about you. Your past, your habits, your fears, everything. The man turns his back and walks away. Welcome to the Secret Service, he says without looking back. The first training class has 40 recruits, 27 weeks. They call this schedule the Criminal Investigator Training Program. Rank 1, Trainee. Rank 1, Trainee. They issue you a Sig Sauer P 229 pistol. You pull the trigger. The first shot tears at your eardrum. Your body flinches instinctively. But here, instincts are not allowed to exist. Keep firing. You pull the trigger again. And again. And hundreds of times more. Here, they don't forge you into a sharpshooter. They erase your reflexes until the gun is no longer a weapon, but becomes a part of your body. When your body has grown accustomed to the smell of gunpowder, they throw you into the Rowley Training Center on the outskirts of Washington. Here, the silence is even more ruthless than the shooting range. You begin to learn the diamond formation, 4 agents surrounding a single life. You learn how to stand close enough to take a bullet to protect the president, yet far enough away so your blood doesn't splatter onto the president's lapel. The real pressure grips you when they throw you into the middle of a simulated crowd. Suddenly, a man reaches into his coat. You have less than a second. Is it a leather wallet or a gun in his hand? If you don't shoot, the president dies. If you shoot wrong, an innocent civilian might lose their life. Your chest tightens, agonizing intensely. But the system forces you to understand. Conscience is a luxury. In this position, the slightest mistake is enough to collapse an empire. And so, day by day, the organization quietly rewires your vision. You walk into a square and no longer see 50,000 cheering, smiling people. Your eyes now only scan for fractures. A car parked slightly out of line. A silent third-floor window cracked open when it was shut tight an hour ago. Someone standing motionless amidst the rushing crowd. Your brain is forced to suspect everything. Your innocence is officially strangled to death. And then, graduation day arrives. The director steps forward, pinning a 5-pointed star to your chest. $80,000 for a year of dedication. You think it's a reward? No. It's a meticulously calculated number to buy out the human inside of you. From the moment that cold metal badge pierces your shirt fabric, the concept of a day off in your life's dictionary is permanently erased. You are no longer a free citizen. You have officially become government property. Rank 2, Investigator. You leave behind the acrid, smoke-filled shooting range, stepping into the suffocation of drywall. The institution's first slap lands in silence. You aren't protecting the president. You are hunting scrap paper. You have a new title, Investigator, Rank 2. The history of this organization is inherently a cruel joke. In 1865, Lincoln signed the order creating the Secret Service on the very day he was assassinated, not to take bullets, to combat counterfeiting. And that is where your youth is buried. They throw you into a shabby field office in Miami, Los Angeles, or some obscure, nameless corner. No glory, no motorcades parting the sea of crowds. Just you, a detective in a wrinkled suit, face buried in a computer screen. You dig through the wreckage of cyber fraud. You track down identity theft rings. There are no camera flashes or press podiums for the tears of an old woman in Ohio who just lost her entire retirement savings. You work in the shadows. The capacity to endure boredom begins to gnaw at your spirit. Day after day. 4 grueling months of silent pursuit, and you successfully dismantle a counterfeit printing press. 3 suspects handcuffed. $2.1 million seized. Your body is exhausted, your chest heaving in anticipation of some recognition. But the next morning, on the front page of an old newspaper tossed in the corner of your desk, the U.S. attorney stands smiling, taking all the credit. Your name is wiped clean. A lifeless report. You realize the brutal unwritten law. This agency only buys your productivity, not your name. Your dedication is eternally anonymous. 8 years pass. The silent ranks inch up. Good luck, 9, GS 11, then GS 13. The salary hits the $156,000 threshold. A glamorous price paid for the erosion of your nervous system. You agonize over bureaucratic legal procedures, waiting for the justice system to speak. You patiently hold your ground. You are convinced that these dry case files are just a stepping stone, that the call to Washington is waiting. Little do you know, these tedious years hunching over a desk are actually the last period of freedom you will ever have. And then, the phone on your desk rings. Rank 3. The Protector. The call from Washington ends like a silent sentence. You leave the pile of trivial files at the shabby field office behind, stepping straight into the epicenter of supreme power. You are no longer an investigator. You belong to the Presidential Protective Division. Rank 3. The Protector. The public looks at the dark sunglasses and sees glory. You step inside and see only a gilded cage. Your life is now chopped up into rotating 10-hour shifts. Bureaucratic protocols bind you to a lifeless coordinate. You are forced to inspect every manhole cover, every housekeeping staff member, every decorative flower petal in a hotel 3 days before the president arrives. Your body becomes a physical lightning rod. You stand motionless in a 100-degree Texas heat or in a bone-chilling Chicago blizzard. Sweat drips, but you are not allowed to wipe it. You are not allowed to shiver. A state of paranoia begins to devour the last remaining shred of humanity within you. Scanning 900 faces in a crowd, your brain automatically dissects every out-of-sync glance, every abnormal crease in a shirt. You relentlessly search for the death hidden in the pockets of strangers. 200 days a year on the road, waking up at midnight, sleeping in cities whose names you don't have time to remember. And it is in these cold, nameless hotel rooms that your real life begins to shatter. Marital fracture at this rank doesn't come with shouting or smashing things. It's as quiet as cigarette ash falling onto a carpet. Christmas, your son's birthday. You call home from 2,000 miles away. Your wife replies softly over the static line. It's okay, honey. That silent resignation is, in fact, the obituary for a family. You realize you are using your own wife and children as sacrificial lambs just to protect the sleep of a man with supreme power who absolutely does not remember your name. Absolute loyalty to the institution must always be paid for by the silent betrayal of those you love most. Rank 4. Shift Leader. It is exactly that perfect silence, the radical extinguishing of the person inside to obey the institution, that earns you a new responsibility. The organization lifts you from the ranks of those taking the hits alone, placing you in the shift leader's seat. Rank 4. You no longer just mortgage your own life. Now, you carry the weight of 8 rotating agents on your shoulders. You coordinate the advance team, counter snipers, local police, and even the officer trudging behind with the nuclear football. Everything is encrypted into ruthless bureaucratic procedures. You flip through every page of the map. You calculate the time to the nearest level 1 trauma center. You measure every second of evacuation by motorcade and helicopter. You stand before the most powerful person in the world, reading the briefing on potential assassins. He nods. A lifeless, repetitive nod. He completely entrusts his life into your hands. That absolute trust is a heavy block of lead, crushing your chest every minute of your shift. But the most bitter paradox of power begins to reveal itself here. You have the ultimate responsibility for security, but you have absolutely no authority to give orders to the person you are protecting. The president steps outside. He ignores the safety perimeter. He wants to dive into the crowd, wants to shake hands, wants to breathe in the energy of the people who voted for him. You stand frozen. Your inner self screams, because you know full well that every handshake is a vulnerability for death to slip through. Every broken barricade is a gamble with blood. But the organization's unwritten law chokes you. Do not argue. You are only allowed to adapt. You bury the fear in the pit of your stomach. You press your earpiece, calling for more snipers on the dew-soaked rooftops. You push the agents deeper into the chaotic crowd. The tear between absolute security requirements and political improvisation is a malignant tumor that can never be cured. Standing in the rain outside the door of the armored car, you realize the cruelest truth of this rank. You are the one who draws the line between life and death, yet you are the most powerless. Because you are draining your own life to protect a symbol, and that symbol constantly throws itself into the crosshairs of destruction. Rank 5. Specialist. The ultimate helplessness before those fragile safety perimeters pushes you back. You strip off the black suit, stepping out of the fake concealment to don heavy tactical armor. You join the counter-assault team CAT. You become a specialist, rank 5, the institution's machine of pure violence. You no longer blend into the crowd. You stand out to intimidate. Standing in the back of the open-top SUV, trailing the presidential motorcade. 40 miles an hour. Your eyes glued to the rifle scope, scanning every edge of the roof, every dew-soaked window. Your finger always sliding along the trigger guard. The safety is off. The unwritten law here is measured in blood and time. 3 seconds. If a gunshot rings out, you have exactly 3 seconds to identify the target, storm out of the vehicle, and unleash suppressive fire. You become an armored wall of flesh, stalling the Grim Reaper so the protective detail can drag the president down into the bunker. You rehearse this sequence tens of thousands of times. The killing reflex is implanted straight into your muscle fibers, completely stripping the brain of its ability to refuse. But the bullet is not what destroys you. The physical erosion happens in silence. The adrenaline current never truly turns off. It creeps under your skin, turning sleep in quiet hotel rooms into paranoid torture. 3 years wearing black armor. You are 38 years old, but you carry the dilapidated body of a 50-year-old. Your knee cartilage is shattered from bearing the massive weight of your gear. Your shoulder joints have permanently lost their rotational ability after a failed explosive breaching drill at Rowley. You cough in agonizing pain. Pleurisy. The consequence of inhaling tens of thousands of handfuls of lead smoke in suffocating shooting ranges. Staring at the medical report through the thin cigarette smoke, you realize the agency's most tragic paradox. The system demands that you possess the brutal physical stamina of a 25-year-old, yet it forces you to have the cold, sharp judgment of a 40-year-old. And no living creature on Earth can maintain both states forever. The institution considers your body a consumable supply. When your joints run dry, the system will uproot you, preparing for another ruthless replacement. Rank 6. Supervisory Special Agent. Your battered body rejects the sweaty struggles on the streets, pushing you deep into a more suffocating space. You leave the backseat of the armored car to enter a windowless conference room. You become a Supervisory Special Agent. Rank 6. Pride bites at you. You once thought you were sacrificing yourself to protect a single president. That was a childish illusion. In reality, you are carrying the lives of 40 individuals spread across the planet's time zones. 40 moving targets. The public only sees the surface of an empire, while you must shoulder its entire dark weight. Every passing day is a bureaucratic battle of wits with lunatics. A soulless algorithm flags a social media status. Within an hour, the file is on your desk. Your men knock on a shabby apartment door at 7 in the morning. A paranoid young man screams about the First Amendment. You smirk bitterly. Threatening the highest power is a federal felony. Title 18, Section 871, a penalty of 5 years in prison. But the cruel truth is, most of them are just losers, trying to vent their impotence on a famous name. What drains your nervous system isn't the loudmouths. The silent fear comes from the silence. The most terrifying enemies are those who have stopped talking and started planning. You shudder when you recall last month's file. A man bought a rifle, drew detailed diagrams, and drove 300 miles to approach the target. The organization's billion-dollar intelligence network was completely blind. He was only stopped by a traffic cop who coincidentally pulled him over for speeding. The bloody manifesto lay wide open on the passenger seat. That slap strikes directly at the institution's arrogance. The lives of the most powerful individuals in the world, sometimes, are only saved by the serendipity of a traffic violation. You break into a cold sweat. You frantically coordinate with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, casting complex webs of surveillance. You comb through those with megalomaniacal obsessions. But deep down in this smoke-filled room, the inner torment still chokes your chest. Your mission is to build a flawless risk detection system. However, you know full well that, no matter how thick the defensive wall is, invisible cracks always exist. And when they split wide open, history will be rewritten in blood. Rank 7. Assistant Special Agent in Charge. It is that very unceasing obsession with those invisible cracks that pushes you up to a colder chair. You step into a locked office, where apathy is institutionalized into power. Assistant Special Agent in Charge. Rank 7. Here, what you swallow every morning isn't glory, but the legacy of blood. Kennedy, 63. Ford, 75. Reagan, 81. Butler, 24. The brutal truth appears before your eyes. The history of this organization is actually just a collection of bloody failures. You don't learn how to win. You learn how to keep history from repeating death under your own signature. You hold the lives of 100 agents in your hands. When a head of state touches down, the countdown begins. 48 breathless hours. Every room is turned upside down to sweep for bugs. Every route is measured by the distance to a trauma center down to the tick of a clock. Snipers. K. 9 units. You've done this 200 times. But complacency is the grave of reason. One loosened detail, and the red carpet will instantly turn into a morgue. But the most fierce agony does not lie at the muzzle of the enemy's gun. It lies neatly in the quiet stack of files on your desk. You don't just manage a budget. You manage the deterioration of human beings. One agent fails his physical fitness test because his knee cartilage is shredded. Another is going mad over a petition revoking his custody rights. A man tries to hide the smell of stale liquor under cheap cologne. They think no one notices. But you know. You see through everything. Because you see your own self from 10 years ago in their bloodshot eyes. You know all too well how this organization has crushed their souls. Yet, the bureaucratic process forces you to become the most ruthless of all. The institution needs meat shields to fill the void. You grit your teeth, coldly writing the name of that broken-down agent onto a 14-hour guard shift in the middle of a blizzard. You push the shattered fragments of humanity to the front line to maintain a mindless machine. The moral corruption is complete. You have officially become the very monster that once eroded you. Rank 8. Special Agent in Charge. It is the silent ruthlessness of crushing your own broken comrades that forges the key to unlock the final door. You step out of the HR office, heading straight into the brain center of the empire. Special Agent in Charge of the Senior Executive Service. Rank 8. You touch the ceiling of power, managing hundreds of agents, sitting in meetings with the director of the CIA, the FBI, and the National Security Council. But this power is a colossal mirage. The higher you go, the thinner the air, and the invisible burden of survival becomes heavier. A foreign trip, 3 countries in 5 days. You have to deploy troops across continents 3 weeks in advance. The game of life and death is no longer confined to a chaotic crowd. It is a rotten geopolitical chess match. You shake hands with local intelligence, fake diplomatic smiles for the cameras, but you know well that half of them have been bought off, and the other half are waiting to betray you. Your paranoia has now evolved into an ideology. You scan every window, every underground tunnel within a 1-mile radius. You measure the time it takes for blood to flow from the president's chest to the nearest trauma center. One overlooked loophole, and death will immediately answer the roll call. Your name will be nailed to history as a blood-soaked sinner. 22 years of your youth, serving 3 presidents, each one entrusting their entire life and family into your hands. The public calls it an honor, but sitting in this quiet office, your chest aches. That absolute trust is a boulder crushing your lungs. You realize the organization's greatest tragedy. You have become the chief architect of the machine that protects life, but have forever lost the ability to feel your own life. Your greatness, in essence, is merely a silent life sentence. Rank 9. The retiree. 25 years of being under house arrest at the absolute center of power suddenly dissolve into a suffocating silence. You walk out of the headquarters, leaving behind tactical maps steeped in the smell of gunpowder. You turn in your weapon. You take off your badge. You officially become an outsider, a retiree, rank 9. The system spits you out at the age of 50. The director pins a cold bronze retirement badge to your chest. Your wife stands there, the woman who shouldered a deficient marriage with a smile of resignation. Your son looks at you with empty eyes, without resentment, exactly as one would look at a lodger passing through by chance. The slap of reality lands sharply. You spent your whole life protecting the most powerful families in the world, only to completely lose your place as a father in your own home. You take a security job for a Fortune 500 corporation. $350,000 a year. Your only task is to protect a pot-bellied CEO from a few disgruntled shareholders. No assassins. No armored motorcades tearing through the night. The purpose of life has been gutted. Sitting in the quiet civilian SUV, you crave the dark weight of the institution. You miss the feeling of deciding history when your hand was placed on the president's back. In this private sector world, your existence is meaningless. They say you are free now, but the paranoia has permanently rooted itself in your spinal cord. You take your wife out to dinner. You can't taste the food. Your eyes unconsciously scan the emergency exits, measuring every footstep of the waiter, analyzing the angle of an imaginary sniper rifle from the window across the street. Your wife watches you quietly. She knows this cruel truth well. The institution may revoke your agency ID, but they have permanently locked your soul in an endless war. The system has finally spat you out, but your human part drowned in there a long time ago. Rank 10. The cycle. The silence of retirement is not the end. It is just a brief pause before the machine restarts its ruthless rotation. Sitting in the empty house, your hand twirling the stub of a dying cigarette, you realize your own ghost is coming back to life in another time zone. Right at this moment, a 24-year-old young man is hunched over a screen, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a 3.2 gigapascals, perfect vision, a clean record, pure biological raw material, untainted by the organization's paranoia. He is filling out an application to join the Secret Service. He is glued to the bloody documentary footage you once watched, the smoke and fire of Dallas, the back of an agent throwing himself to shield power. He swallows that grand illusion whole. He thirsts for invisible glory. He wants to become the armored wall of flesh shielding history. Looking through the lens of 25 eroded years, your chest tightens with a catastrophic existential sorrow. He absolutely doesn't know the true price of the contract. In the dry, bureaucratic clauses, there is no line warning about the divorce papers that will silently appear on the cold dining table. No one talks about the children growing up and forever forgetting their father's silhouette on Thanksgiving. He cannot imagine the knee cartilage shattering under the weight of tactical armor. He has yet to understand what it means to be stripped of the nervous system's peace, turning into a paranoid who perpetually scans for sniper barrels at every street corner. The institution will grant him a cold metal star, a gun, and a purpose in life. But in return, it will chew up and swallow his humanity and the longevity of his bones, leaving not a single crumb. The typing stops. The submit button is pressed. A new badge begins to be forged. The wheel of the institution keeps rolling, coldly chewing up and swallowing a new generation. The game of survival, once again, returns to the starting line.